Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel this day. Today we are looking at the topic moderation. What is moderation? This is the act of avoiding excess. It could be excess of anything. Life is about having balance. Laws are invented in order to cut the excesses of the powerful and put them in check so that there can be balance in the community. Man was created to live in perfect harmony with all other creation, but the desire for more, which is in humans, always pushes man to want more of everything, believing that having more is better. This, to the contrary, always means that man will have to take from another in order to satisfy that desire. This other may be animals, killing them not because of hunger, but because they want to keep trophies or sell parts of their bodies for money, or take the land that they occupy for our own pleasure, covering the sea to create islands for the enjoyment of man. From plants, cutting down trees in excess without replacing them in order to make money from timber, from fellow human beings, taking from the weak in order to enrich the powerful. All these things that man does in order to have more for his own use eventually lead to destruction of man if this excess is not checked. Galatians 5:22-23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law." And in 1 Corinthians 6:12, "All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be enslaved by anything." In this video, I would like to talk about moderation in different facets of life. First, moderation in food. Food is very important in nourishing our bodies. From a very young age, we were taught to always make sure that our meals are always consistent of a balanced diet. This means that every nutrient should be represented in the right quantity in our meals. If we take this into consideration throughout our lives, most of the diseases that plague the human race would not exist. And even if one is to get sick, the same food can be medication, because what consists of food in most of our cultures are also medicinal plants. As Hippocrates rightly said, "Let your food be your medicine, and medicine be your food." This moderation is currently lacking in many people's lives, and food has become not just something to nourish our bodies, but part of entertainment, and the taste is more important than the nutrients contained therein. We tend to consume more of one type of food than another, and therefore creates an imbalance in our systems. For this reason, there are so many different diets to take care of our different needs to balance certain imbalances in our bodies, and different surgeries to take care of our inability to control the amount of food we take in. This is not because we are just not able, but because the more you take in certain foods, the more your body craves them, and will require a lot of discipline not to satisfy these cravings. All this may not be necessary if from the start we stuck more to taking in the right nutrients in the right quantities in all our meals. If you have children, please start this process from their young age to protect them from unnecessary addiction to food, and they will grow up taking everything in moderation. The body can be put into subjection by practice and not just by wishing. Proverbs 23 verse 20 and 21 warns us, "Be not among drunkards, or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags." Second, moderation in wealth. All of us work to accumulate wealth so that we will not need to work in our old age, but have enough to take care of ourselves. This is very important because the body must age, and it is inevitable that we will need care in old age. And this costs money, especially if the family is not in a position to take care of the elderly themselves due to different reasons. The desire for more that is in all humans come in handy to ensure that there is enough drive for us to make enough wealth to be able to take care of ourselves and even those who do not have in the society. This same drive can at times turn into excess desire to create more wealth if not checked. And when this turns to greed, we desire to amass even more wealth regardless of the formula used to acquire such wealth. This gives way to robberies, thievery, corruption, and all forms of wrongful acquisition of wealth. Being content with what we have is a very good way of balancing the need to acquire more and self-control in our desires for more, as Hebrews 13:5 encourages us. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." Remember, the love of money will keep us chasing it and not even enjoying what we already have accumulated. Always rely on the guidance from God, even in the way we acquire wealth. Third, moderation in space. Man requires space to live. It is, however, ironic that man has been panicking for a long time about overpopulation and space not being enough for man to live on. This makes land very expensive, and some scrupulous people want to own hectares of land that they will never use because they believe there is not going to be more land to live on, or they will sell to those who will be looking for land. Most of the earth's surface is unoccupied. But because man wants to raise the value of land, there is always the narrative that there is overpopulation, and therefore man has to reduce the number of birds. It is, however, amazing that this same narrative of reducing the number of birds is only emphasized in some parts of the world and not others. I only took an example of 2 countries to see how this birth control is not realistically emphasized. The Netherlands has a population density of 508 people per square kilometer, while Kenya has a population density of 98 people per square kilometer. Yet Kenyans are encouraged to reduce the number of births, while people in the Netherlands are encouraged to have more children. Please note that it is important to have the number of children that you can properly take care of. This is the best reason for birth control, not that the world is overpopulated. The world is barely half full. It is greed that have made some buy the whole land from a family, leaving the children without inheritance, so that they can own land that they will never step into, just to put their name on the title deed, in anticipation of selling it at a higher price. The book of Leviticus has remedy for a family that was poor and needed to sell their land to survive. Leviticus 25:23-28. The land, moreover, shall not be sold permanently, for the land is mine, for you are but aliens and sojourners with me. Thus, for every piece of your property, you are to provide for the redemption of the land. If a fellow countryman of yours becomes so poor he has to sell part of his property, then his nearest kinsman is to come and buy back what his relative has sold. Or, in case a man has no kinsman, but so recovers his means as to find sufficient for its redemption, then he shall calculate the years since its sale and refund the balance to the man to whom he sold it, and so return to his property. But if he has not found sufficient means to get it back for himself, then what he has sold shall remain in the hands of its purchaser until the year of Jubilee, But at the Jubilee it shall revert, that he may return to his property. This same greed has led others to move their neighbors' boundaries in order to increase the size of their land, and in that way create enmity amongst neighbors. Proverbs 23:10 is clear on this issue. Do not move the ancient boundary or go into the fields of the fatherless. Let us have moderation in the space we occupy on this planet, because we have to share the space with other creatures as well. So when we take good care of land, we are being the caregivers we were created to be, and will be in harmony with other creatures. Fourth, moderation in leisure and pleasure. The human body likes to feel pleasure and will like to be in that mode throughout life. This is, however, not possible, because some things that we need to achieve in this life require a certain level of pain to be achieved. For example, if you get pleasure in watching movies, this cannot be done throughout life. There needs to be moderation in this, or you will end up without imagination, because you're not exercising your brain by fixing it on another person's thought throughout. This also may mean that very little physical activity takes place, leading to deterioration of body muscles and lose your body's tonnage. 1 Timothy 4:8 says that, "For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come." Bodily training is beneficial only for a while, that is, while we are still on this earth, so we need it in a balanced way, the way we also need to relax for a while. Some people consider sex as a means to obtain pleasure because it is pleasurable for the body. It is also important to have moderation even in matters concerning sex. This is because when we only look at it in the animalistic sense to satisfy a particular urge, it loses its value and becomes just something else we do to relieve stress. Try to abstain from sex for a while, even in marriage. You will realize that the next time you have sex, it is more enjoyable and the body appreciates it more than when it becomes routine and hence boring. Let everything therefore be done in moderation, and there is not going to be any law that will become a burden over your life. Just as 2 Peter 1:5-7 states, "For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love." The book of Ecclesiastes sets this out so clearly in Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace." If you meditate on this scripture, you will understand the seasons of life and not go overboard in any aspect of life. When its time comes, you will deal with it then and move on to the next chapter. Thank you for your time. I hope you've taken something or have learned something from our speech today. I hope that you will continue to listen and engage in our conversations from now on, and please tune in again in our quest as we seek for peace.